Alright, I'm starting a PLL series. I had a PLL video, but it's not that good. It's out of date, and also I didn't want to make another long video that just had one alg for every PLL. So here we are. I'm just gonna do a video for each PLL. Maybe put two per video if they're pretty easy cases, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. So this is GC Perm. I'm starting with it because it can easily be one of the worst PLLs if you don't know a good exec for your main alg, and also if you don't know algs for different AUFs. So it can easily be really bad if you don't know what you're doing. The main alg I think you should use is this one. Now there are a bunch of ways to execute that. The way that I do it, so this is, you use this ring finger here to do the wide U prime, and then the rest of it's pretty standard. And then when you get here, what I do this left index for both. Now, there are other ways of doing it. I don't think you should necessarily do it the way I do it. I just do the way it's most comfortable for me. But there are other executions. One of which would be to do left middle for this, and then right index. And then the rest of them are variations to that last part. I think Brian does this with his thumb. I'm not good with that, but it should be just fine. Then for another execution, you can do this middle finger down here. You might suck at doing this in any capacity, this R prime from neutral, so there are ways to do it starting on thumb on top. And the best way to do this, I think, is with an X prime rotation, but it's not really rotation, I'll get into that. So you start the alg the same way as the second way I told you how to start the other one. But instead of doing a U, you do a D. And while you're doing this D, you're going to regrip your right hand. Then you're going to U2 or B2, however you look at it. And while you're doing that, you're going to regrip your left hand. Then you can just insert this pair into the back like that. And I think that's the best way to do it if you are going to do it starting with thumb on top. Because I bet Brian against his BUB alg and I won. So, but if you want to see the BUB alg, it starts the same way, but like it ends like that. And then you can also do it with FR prime F prime again. Pretty much the same way. But I think the X prime U2 R U prime R prime is going to be the better option. And then I guess you can also rotate, but I don't think you should do that. Now for AUF shit. So here, we're at the same angle as the standard alg, but we're gonna have to do a U prime. Now, that's kind of hard if you're using the neutral FRF one. Personally, I'm gonna do it with my thumb. You could also push it with your right hand. But if you're doing this F prime with this hand, doing a U prime afterwards is going to be hard. Personally, I think it's still the best option, but there's another alg you can do if it's kind of difficult for you. So here's the alg. It's pretty straightforward to execute, but it's also kind of long, so you're going to have to see whether it's worth it for yourself, and it goes like this. Now, I don't use this alg anymore. It was in my last video, but I've pretty much completely forgot about it until about 10 minutes ago when I put it in the script of this video. So yeah, now on to the next AUF, which is the standard RUD AUF. Now, you should probably do this alg from neutral too. It's kind of harder than the other one to do in neutral, but you should end up just fine. It's pretty much going to start the same way. I think for this one, you're going to want to do the right ring U prime, because it's going to end up being kind of weird if you do it like that. And then here, you are going to do R2. And then doing this UD prime is kind of hard, right? So I think you probably should figure out how to do it, but it's difficult. So if you're going to regrip like that, I can kind of understand that, but I don't think you should do that for doing the RUD alg, if you're going to regrip in the middle, if you do this U with this left index, you can do that while doing the regrip, so it makes the regrip softer. You probably just shouldn't do this one from thumb on top. I don't think it's going to be worth it if you're going to do that. And of course for RUDG perms, if you've got an AUF before the alg, so let's say you're at this angle, you can do the D at the end of the alg in front of the alg instead. So you can AUF at the same time as you do it, and don't have to do the last move. So now let's get into this. I know what you're thinking. You're going to do R2, F2, but I don't think that's worth it for anyone. This alg is really bad and really slow, so I probably wouldn't recommend you use it. I think for pretty much everyone, even if your lefty is terrible, it's going to be a better option to mirror wide move GA, and to do that with either the rotation or the FUF. I think the FUF is going to be harder if you suck at lefty. Personally, I've timed it, and the LU is faster, even though I suck at it. Now, obviously, along with that, I have to bring up when you've got the bar on the right, and it's going to skip AUF. You can just do your GA execution on the left, and that's also a pretty easy way to save some AUF moves. That's pretty much the extent to what I think AUF optimization is worth it for this case. But now I'm just going to go over 2 experimental algs that you probably shouldn't use. I've uploaded a video about one of these, but I don't think it was that good. So here we go. So they both start with R2, S2 prime. So you're going to have to know that. And they both pretty much go along those lines. Doesn't have an R2 at the end. But those will be in the description. I don't think you should use them, but I think they could end up being alright. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Next up is probably going to be V-Perm, even though I think J-Perm actually has a pretty good video on V-Perms. It's probably his best video he's ever made, and I'm not a big J-Perm fan, so that's saying something. But I'm probably going to go over it because there's a lot you can do with AUF on those, and it's also a pretty bad case if you don't know what you're doing. You can see all the algs in the description. I'll probably put timestamps if I'm feeling like it. But yeah, that's it.